I'm going to find God.
Ah, I see. Well, dinner's at 6. Don't be late.
Thank you.
You're welcome. He was like, no. Here you go.
Thank you.
I love broccoli.
Oh.
Gotta go.
So did you find him?
God is a woman, Mom. And she has the most beautiful smile I've ever seen.
Why are you in such a good mood? I just ate Twinkies in the park with God. He's much younger than I expected.
Looking for God. How many of us are truly looking for God? Sometimes it's easy for us to get lost in the things that we have accomplished. In our lifetime, just in the last few years, we've seen these huge technological jumps with smartphones. Now we carry so many devices in our pocket that we never thought that we would carry around with us everywhere we go. We have the internet, where we have communication with anyone in the world. We can get news from anywhere at any time. We've got social media, allows us to be connected with people even though we're thousands of kilometers away. We've got robotics. Now we've got machines that are doing our work for us so that we don't have to do all of it ourselves. We have AI, artificial intelligence. Again, machines doing our work and beginning to think for us now so we don't have to do all of our thinking. We've seen incredible accomplishments in space travel and exploration of our universe and looking out beyond. Then we have this brand new creation that's coming out, the metaverse. This virtual world that we're all going to start living in and gathering around. And yet, all of these things give us these feelings and boost us up and put us in a place where now we have taken God's place. Because now, with things like social media and the metaverse, we have power over things. If we need to accomplish something, we have tools to do it. We've created machines to do our work for us. We have the power to do things that we never were able to do before. We can now split the atom. We can now peek into microbiology. We can see far out into the universe. And with these tools, with the internet now, we're omnipresent. We're not limited to just being in Bamako right now. We can be in multiple places at the same time. Through social media, we can be back in our home countries. We can be following our friends around to different places. So now we see ourselves as being omnipresent. We're not limited to just being in one place anymore. If you need an answer to anything, all we have to do is pull up our friend Google, and we can find the answer to anything. Remember the days a few years ago when you used to say, "I wonder what," or "What was that like?" or "How would you do that?" Now, we don't ask these rhetorical questions anymore. We can find answers to all of these questions just by going and looking at Google. So now we have the answer to every question. So we've elevated ourselves now to being like God, being omnipotent, being omnipresent, being omniscient. But along with that, we have found a lot of our weaknesses too. Our world was brought to a screeching halt despite all of our technology 2 years ago with the pandemic. Shut down the world. And there was nothing we could do about it. Man is striving to find a cure to cancer, but we just can't seem to get that far. We've got these terrible problems that go back to the beginning of time, and we still haven't solved the problems of racism. This is still something that's holding us back and holding us down every day. But then we can look at our governments. We can say, well, we're great. We can govern ourselves. Really, what governments are functioning well? What governments seem to be functioning properly? Every time we look around, our governments are failing us. Our governments are letting us down. We've got stresses like mankind has never had before. And these stresses bear down on us. And we're living with stress and things holding us down like never before. And we've got depression. Depression is covering the world like it never has in the past. And this depression is just dragging us down. And so many people we know are on antidepressants now because we just can't seem to get over these things. They're just holding us back. And so we still have all of these problems that despite all of our technology, despite all of the great achievements and accomplishments that we have as mankind, we still have a lot of problems that are drawing us down. And our technology is actually creating new problems for us. We need God. But we have taken God out of our lives. We figure that with all of the things that we have, we no longer have a need for Him. We've become independent. Just like the people in the city of Babel did when they built the tower reaching to heaven. We're getting to that place to where we feel we don't need God anymore. Because our technology is going to help us solve all of our problems. Our knowledge that we're gathering more and more and more and pooling it together with tools like Wikipedia and Google to where we all have the same amount of knowledge available at our fingertips. We set up these great government structures. We say we can rule ourselves. We can dominate. We can be independent. We don't need God. We can take care of ourselves. Now we see that God is no more powerful than we are. We say that we don't need God because we can do everything that He can do. And so mankind has lost his desire for God. We don't search for God and look for God the way we used to. In fact, we see we don't even need Him. Why do we need Him? We've got all of these tools. We've got all of these things we designed. We're functioning just fine by ourselves. We've gotten to the point to where a lot of people even deny the existence of God. We say God isn't there. Why should He be? We don't see Him. We're taking care of ourselves. If we don't see Him, that means He's not there, right? Because we believe everything we see. In Romans 1:19 through 20, Paul says this to the Roman church. He says they know the truth about God because He has made it obvious to them. For ever since the world was created, people have seen the earth and sky. Through everything God made, they can clearly see His invisible qualities, His eternal power and divine nature. So they have no excuse for not knowing God. If we look around us, everything we see points to God. Everything that comes into our viewpoint is here because of a divine creator that made it all. And everything points back to Him. James Prescott Joule was an incredible scientist. He actually came up with the first law of heat and thermodynamics. But he didn't use science to prove there was no God. He did just the opposite. He says, after the knowledge of and obedience to the will of God, the next aim must be to know something of His attributes of wisdom, power, and goodness as evidenced by His handiwork. the more he discovered in science, the more it drew him closer to God. And this is the way it's supposed to be. When we look at the world around us, it's in an absolute disaster. Come on, when was the last time you turned on the news and heard good news? It's getting worse and worse every time we watch, every time we listen, every time we read. Wars are increasing. More and more nations are at war. Is this Ukraine conflict going to draw us into World War III? That's one of the big questions. We're seeing more terrible, horrible things happening. The atrocities that we're witnessing are just mind-blowing. It seems like sin is everywhere. It's out of control. We've gotten to a point where we're not even shocked anymore. When we see something, we say, that's the way the world is today. We're just going to have to live with it. This is what happens when we take our eyes off of God and we try to control ourselves. These are the results that we wind up with. Paul went on in verse 21 to say, yes, they knew God, but they wouldn't worship Him as God or even give Him thanks. They began to think up foolish ideas of what God was like. As a result, their minds became dark and confused. Claiming to be wise, they instead became utter fools. And instead of worshiping the glorious, ever-living God, they worshipped idols made to look like mere people and birds and animals and reptiles. So God abandoned them to do whatever shameful things their hearts desired. As a result, they did vile and degrading things with each other's bodies. They traded the truth about God for a lie. So they worshipped and served the things God created instead of the Creator Himself, who is worthy of eternal praise. Amen. Is Paul describing our world today? Has God abandoned us today because we've abandoned Him? We're doing things that we thought were not possible to each other. Vile, disgusting, ugly, sinful, evil things. Because we've taken God out of the picture. But we see that God is here. All we have to do is look. God does exist. No matter what you believe, no matter what you think, you can think all you want, there is no God, but that doesn't make Him go away. God is still with us. And the earth that we're living on, as much as we think we're in control, does not belong to us. We are visitors here. This world belongs to God, and He is still very much in control of it. And He's also with us. Even if we're not seeing Him, He's still with us. The problem is we're not looking. All we have to do is look, and we will see Him. The psalmist says in Psalm 19, beginning in verse 1, "The heavens proclaim the glory of God. The skies display His craftsmanship. Day after day they continue to speak, and night after night they make Him known. They speak without a sound or a word. Their voice is never heard. Yet their message has gone throughout the earth, and their words to all the world. God has made a home in the heavens for the sun. It bursts forth like a radiant bridegroom after his wedding. It rejoices like a great athlete, eager to run the race. The sun rises at one end of the heavens and follows its course to the other end. Nothing can hide from its heat." Our sun. If anything should remind us of God, it's the first thing we see every morning. The sun lights up our sky. And it's there throughout the entire day for us. From sun up to sunset, the sun is with us, continuing to remind us, shining bright in our eyes, look, I am God. I am here. It should constantly remind us that there is a God. The sun does so much for us. It provides light so that we can see and do our work during the day. It warms our planet. Almost too much sometimes. But it keeps us warm. And today, it's even providing power for us. We're building solar power stations and putting solar panels on our roof to be able to light up our worlds and to provide energy for us. When we think of the sun, we often have this happy little picture of the sun, don't we? This smiling little ball of yellow glow. But in reality, the sun is a blazing ball of fire. Far beyond anything you and I can comprehend. Scientists estimate that the temperature of the sun is 15 million degrees. You think it's hot today in Bamako? What do you think it's like at 15 million degrees? The sun is huge. It would take 1.3 million of our Earths put together to equal the size of the sun. Let me show you a comparison. I'm going to put the Earth up here. Do you see it? You don't see it? It's right there. That little black dot. That is our home planet compared to the size of the sun. The sun's the largest object in our solar system. It's bigger than any of the other planets. It's the only star in our solar system. Our solar system revolves around it, and it provides gravity for every planet in our solar system. That sun is providing the gravity that allows us to stand up and be drawn to Earth. Its gravity is for the entire solar system. Now the sun, interestingly enough, is not a solid object. You couldn't poke it and have it poke back. It's actually a ball of plasma. Plasma is not a gas. It's not a solid. It's not a liquid. It's a completely different form of energy. Like nothing else that we have on Earth. It's blindingly bright. When was the last time you tried to look at the sun? It's not possible. We can literally lose our eyesight by staring at the sun. It is so bright. Let me give you an idea of how bright it is. If we were to measure it in watts, how we measure with our light bulbs, it'd be 3.826 times 10 to the 26th power watts, or something equivalent to that. This isn't an exact number because scientists actually can't calculate something like this. But let me put it in perspective for you. If we were to take an average 100 watt incandescent light, now we have LED bulbs instead, so like a 22 watt LED bulb. If we took these light bulbs, how many light bulbs would it take to equal how powerful our sun is? It would take 2.17 times 10 to the 25th power light bulbs. Okay? That's 22 septillion. You know the number septillion, right? You use this number every day. It's 24 zeros. So it says 22 followed by 24 zeros. That's how many light bulbs it would take to make the same amount of light that we get from our sun. There's never been this amount of light bulbs on Earth. It's not possible for us as mankind to recreate what the sun does. It's impossible for us not to see. Even if you close your curtains in your bedroom when you go to sleep at night, the sun still shines through them in the morning. It's that bright. Even when we close our eyelids and look to the sun, we can still see it. And there's absolutely nothing that mankind can create to come even close to what the sun does. Even in our advancements of splitting the atom and our high-speed collider systems that are built in certain countries where we're trying to discover the energy, we can't do it. And yet the sun is only one of billions upon billions upon billions upon billions upon billions of stars in our solar system. And the sun is tiny compared to a lot of them. Each one of these stars is crying out, look at God. You can't do anything like this. Only God can do this. So during the day we have the sun reminding us. At night, as we look up at the sky and we see these billions of stars, they're all reminders to us that God is here. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, we have continual reminders. And that's just the sun. Look around at the animal kingdom. The animal kingdom is fabulous. You can't deny God's creativity when you look at the animal kingdom. Look at an elephant, for instance. What a magnificent animal. It's huge. It's heavy. It's strong. It's powerful. It has this long trunk. These big tusks. These gigantic feet. These elephants can do amazing amounts of work with their power. And yet, there's something that elephants can do that I bet you weren't aware that they could do. Let me show you.
The elephant with is some tree. Okay, see that too. Auntie, red color. I would like to explain you some details of these elephants. For the female elephant, when they're about 15 years, they will be pregnant. Use the time for pregnancy about 20 months to 22 months or nearly 2 years. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times until 50 years they stop pregnant. At the time they are get old. They can pass pictures by memory because they can remember about it the moment you touch them. ไม่เห็นกับตาคงจะไม่เชื่อนะคะว่าช้างวาดรูปได้นะคะ Oh, Archie, you've released the panda pictures, really nice. Special, so nice. Okay, วางเลยครับ Oh, Sudha and Sinan, they would like to show you how to start their names. The first one is on your left hand side. His name is Sinan. Yes. And Sudha.
Unbelievable.
Okay, Sudachi, finish the kind of pictures. Very nice. Reckless of herself with herself. Sudan.
That amazing. Oh.
You thought you knew everything there was to know about elephants. Look at what God can do. God can give them the ability to do things that we would have trouble doing. Now, you might think this is a faked video, that this is some kind of clever animation. This is actually real. This comes from an elephant park and clinic that's in Indonesia. I'm sorry, in Thailand. And they've taught elephants how to paint pictures. Elephants were used in Thailand up until 1989 in the logging industry, and then it was outlawed to use them. So they had all of these elephants, and they didn't know what to do with them. So this animal park took them in and created a sanctuary for them, and they taught the elephant to paint pictures so that they could raise money for this animal sanctuary, for this elephant sanctuary. So these paintings are actually sold to support caring for the animals. And you can buy these. They actually have a website online where you can buy them. It's not chump change. It's not just a little bit of money that anybody can go out and buy. The pictures are somewhere between $1,500 to $2,000. So you're buying an actual masterpiece. And in 2006, they were able to raise enough money in order to open the first licensed elephant hospital in northern Thailand. God's creation is capable of doing things that we never even knew about. And God has signed His creation. It's bigger than we will ever know, more than we will ever understand. It's more complex. No matter how much we try to figure it all out, we will never understand all of it. We only get tiny little fragments. And sometimes we take those tiny little fragments, and because our imagination and our knowledge is limited, we limit who God is too. So because we can't think big, we say God can't be big. But God is bigger. We've been on this planet for thousands and thousands of years. And we've gone just about every place we think we can go. We think we've seen everything there is to see. But that is so far from the truth. We are so far off from discovering everything in the world. We're so proud of the things that we make, aren't we? Out of the tools that we've developed, the things that we've created with science, what we've been able to do with technology, the medicines that we've been able to create. We're so proud of these things. The psalmist says in Psalm 145, 1 through 7, I will exalt you, my God and King, and praise your name forever and ever. I will praise you every day. Yes, I will praise you forever. Great is the Lord. He is most worthy of praise. No one can measure His greatness. Let each generation tell its children of your mighty acts. Let them proclaim your power. I will meditate on your majestic, glorious splendor and your wonderful miracles. Your awe-inspiring deeds will be on every tongue. I will proclaim your greatness. Everyone will share the story of your wonderful goodness. They will sing with joy about your righteousness. We need to start giving God credit. We need to stop taking credit ourselves and pointing it to where it belongs.
Jesus, why are you doing anything today? I mean, like, when I read the Bible, I see you do these incredible things, like raising the dead and healing the sick and feeding the 5,000.
Right.
Why doesn't that kind of stuff happen today?
Well, Drew, things are still happening all around you.
I'm not seeing it. Like, for example, I'm thirsty and I want some water. Do you have any water for me?
Well,
Of course you don't. See, this is what I'm talking about. It's like you don't even care about me.
no, Drew, things are still happening, even today. You just need to pay attention.
Okay.
Hey, Drew, I just went
Hi.
to the store and they're having a buy one, get one free.
What?
You want a water?
Yeah.
Okay, enjoy.
Oh.
Oh, yeah. Huh? That's great.
That is great.
Now, you didn't have the water.
Right.
Then you had it. Boom.
I know, it's so lucky that Cat walked by, with 2 for 1.
Did you say lucky?
Well, yeah.
No, Drew, you didn't have the water.
Right.
You needed it. Then you had it. You see how that works? Huh?
Oh, I see what you're doing. Oh, I'm so rude. I'm sorry. Hey, Kathleen, thank you so much for the water. Appreciate it. Now, would you show me something amazing?
Amazing.
Yeah, I want to see amazing things, like Moses parting the Red Sea. That was amazing, right? How about the next time I'm stuck in traffic? I hit the steering wheel, the cars will split, and I cruise on through. That'd be amazing.
That would be amazing.
Yeah.
I have a better idea. Keep your eyes open.
Okay, Oh, excuse me.
Yes.
Hey, you dropped your
Wow.
wallet.
Thank you.
Sure, no problem. Okay, show me something amazing.
Yes,
amazing.
of course.
Right.
Yeah. Excuse me.
Yeah.
Yeah, you didn't take anything from my wallet.
Whoa, I'm not a thief, right?
I know.
No, you dropped your wallet, I picked it up and gave it back to you. Droppy, picky, givey. No takey.
I know. Thanks for your honesty. Here's $20.
What? Wait, hold on. She just gave me $20 for counteracting gravity? That's amazing.
Yes, that is amazing.
Oh, man, how awesome. Now, would you show me something big?
Excuse me?
Show me something big.
Drew, how can I expect you to see me in the big things when you can't even see me in the little things?
Does that sound familiar? We don't see God in everything that He does. We're looking for these huge, miraculous things, and yet He's around us every day. And we need to recognize who's really in control of everything, because it's not us. Proverbs 16:9 says, we can make our plans, but it's the Lord who determines our steps. We need to believe that God can change things. God can do the impossible and change things that there's no way we could ever change. In Colossians 1:15 through 17, we read, Christ is the visible image of the invisible God. He existed before anything else was created and is supreme over all creation. For through Him, God created everything in the heavenly realms and on earth. He made the things we can see and the things we can't see, such as thrones, kingdoms, rulers, and authorities in the unseen world. Everything was created through Him and for Him. He existed before anything else, and He holds all creation together. God is in control. There's nothing that He's not capable of changing or doing. We need to understand that God cares about us. Yes, He's the master of the universe, and who am I to look to God? And yet God is concerned about each and every one of us. 1 Peter 5:6 and 7 says, humble yourselves under the mighty power of God, and at the right time He will lift you up in honor. Give all your worries and cares to God, for He cares about you. That verse 7 is so important. Give all your worries and cares to God, for He cares about you. The Creator and Master of the universe cares about you. And He wants us to each bring our concerns before Him and share with Him what's on our hearts. We need to be willing to ask Him. We need to be willing to ask Him for the things that we need. We need to be willing to ask Him for the things that we're stumbling over. And we need to be willing to know that He's going to hear us, and that He is going to give us what we ask for. In 1 John 5:14 through 15, we are confident that He hears us whenever we ask for anything that pleases Him. And since we know He hears us when we make our requests, we also know that He will give us what we ask for. God is going to hear when we call out to Him. He is going to answer, and He is going to give us when we call out for things that He wants us to have. And when this happens, we need to be grateful for it. And we need to be grateful that God is in charge of everything, because we have proven that we cannot handle the responsibilities of this world. Thankfully, God is there, and He's always watching over everything. And in 1 Thessalonians 5:18, we're reminded to be thankful in all circumstances. For this is God's will for you who belong to Christ Jesus. Be thankful in all circumstances, not just the big major things. I'll tell you a way that I show gratitude. Every week, multiple times, I drive through the traffic circle at Tour Afrique. Those of you that don't do this know it's not something to look forward to every day. And when I get to the other side, the first thing I do is breathe a sigh of relief. I made it. I don't know how, but I made it. And I say, God, thank you for bringing me through that roundabout one more time. Thank Him for the little things. Thank Him for the everyday things. Every day, we need to acknowledge that He's there. Every day, we need to make Him part of our world. The psalmist says in Psalm 118:24, "This is the day that the Lord has made. We will rejoice and be glad in it." No matter what's happening, we can still rejoice and be happy because God made today. God is in charge of everything that's going to happen today. God is in control of everything that's going to happen today. What's not to be happy about with that? Because we know that God is perfect and His plans are perfect. So we need to put our ideas aside. We need to stop looking at the mistakes we're making as man and blaming those on God and saying, God, heal us. Take care of us. I want to trust you. And I'm going to thank you that you are doing everything that you're doing in the world today. Think of all the things that God does. We take so many of them for granted. Have you ever thought about what we breathe in every day? Our air contains a perfect mixture of oxygen, nitrogen, helium, and about 20 other components. And if any of these are out of alignment, the next breath we draw will be our last. God is constantly regulating the gases that are in our atmosphere, the ones that we're breathing into our lungs, to make sure that it has just the right amount of each component to continue to give us life. God controls the temperature. We live in an area that's called, what scientists call the Goldilocks zone. It's not too hot, it's not too cold, it's just right to sustain life for us. And God is controlling these temperatures every day to make sure that it's not getting to be, I know sometimes it feels like it, to make sure it's not getting to be 60 or 70 degrees, because then we wouldn't be able to survive. To make sure it's not minus 10 or minus 20. He keeps it at just the right temperature for us to survive. Every day He puts food on our tables. We don't give Him credit because we go out and get it. Who do you think is providing it? Who do you think is putting it in the stores? Who do you think is creating those animals for us to eat? Who's creating the crops that are growing? We take credit for all of those things, but all of those things are coming from God. And we need to start thanking Him for what He provides. Every weather pattern on earth is controlled by Him. Mankind has tried and tried and tried, and there's no way we can control the weather. We can't determine when or how much it rains. We can't control how hard the wind blows. We can't control the temperatures, but God does all of this. God set the boundaries of the ocean so that the oceans aren't overwhelming our land. He stops the oceans where they are to keep them from flooding us. He determines our time. We measure time. Hours, minutes, seconds. But it's God that has actually created it, and He determines how it's going to operate. God chooses when our life begins and when our life ends. I want you to raise your hand if you were the one that chose the day that you were born. None of us do that. Raise your hand if you know the day you're going to die. None of us know that. God has predetermined all of these things. God makes our hearts beat every day. This is something we don't think about, but if it were to stop, our life would be over. God is keeping our heart pumping day after day after day. He's managing the orbit of our planet to make sure that it doesn't get out of alignment, too far from the sun or too close to the sun. When we get sick, it's God who's doing the healing. It's God who cures our sicknesses. We give credit to the doctors. We give credit to the pharmacists. We give credit to these people that do these things. And I'm so glad that God has brought them here to help us out. But it's ultimately God that determines the healing. That pill that you're taking is going to be completely ineffective unless God is doing something with it. That pill is not magic. It's what God does. When we get injured, it's amazing how He knits our bodies back together and we don't even think about it. Just think about something as simple as a cut on your finger. When you cut your finger, do you say, "Oh my gosh, I got to stop what I'm doing now and heal"? Heal. Stop bleeding. Stop bleeding. Make a scab. We don't do any of these things. God has already predetermined them, and it happens without us thinking about it. We've sent out these space probes and built giant telescopes to see out into the universe. But what we can see is so tiny compared to what's out there. We don't know how big the universe is. We can't see beyond a certain level, but God can. God sees far beyond our galaxy, beyond any other galaxy out there. It's God who determines what's going to happen in the next minute, the next hour, the next day, the next month, the next year. God determines all of our futures. And there's absolutely nothing that is beyond His control. There's nothing that He can't do. There's nothing beyond what He can manage. When we look at His creation is far beyond anything that we could do. No matter how smart we think we've become with Google and Wikipedia, those are just a fraction of articles and a fraction of amounts of information that are in our world. When we look at how many plants and animals, it's as simple as this. How many plants and animals are in the world? Do you know that there's 18,000 new species of plant and animals discovered every single year? If we think we're this smart and that we've discovered everything, we're still finding 18,000 new plants and animals every single year. Every year we're finding an average of 70 new reptiles, 400 new kinds of fish, and we've just begun to explore the oceans. 2,000 new flowering plants, 13,000 invertebrates, animals without a backbone, insects. We're discovering this amount of new things every single year. Scientists, I don't know how they've come up with this number. I don't know how you can know what you don't know. But they've determined that there are still 17,800 animals out there yet to be discovered. They think there's probably 1,300 reptiles we haven't found, 8,500 amphibians we haven't found, 8,000 fish we haven't found. They think that there's somewhere around 5,425,000 invertebrate animals that we haven't discovered yet. They think that there's probably 4 million different bugs that we haven't found yet. Well, maybe they can start looking in my house because I can tell them where to find a lot of them. Arachnids, 500,000. Mollusks. Animals that have not a backbone but a shell, 115,000 that we haven't discovered yet. Crustaceans, 103,000 that we haven't discovered yet. Conodorms, 7,000 we haven't discovered yet. Other things, we just have this other category, 700,000 animals that we haven't discovered yet. Plants. Scientists think there's 80,500 plants that we haven't seen yet. We've pretty much covered the planet, haven't we? And yet the experts are telling us there's still more that we haven't found. Just plants that make flowers, there's probably at least 71,000 that we haven't discovered yet. Ferns and horsetails, 15,000 that man has not set eyes on yet. Moses and liverworts, 6,500. I'm sorry, mosses. I spelled it wrong. For a total of 5,523,300 things that we haven't found yet. How smart are we if these are all the things that we haven't seen yet and that we don't know with our eyes? And every single species is very unique and very different from anything else. God is an incredibly creative God. And His imagination is far beyond ours. Each and everything in existence points back to God and says, look at me. God made me. I'm special. I'm different. The next time you see that ant invading your kitchen, that ant is coming to declare to you, look at me. God made me. Recognize God in me before you squish me to oblivion. Millions and millions and millions of things on earth are pointing back to God every day. When we look out at the universe, it becomes billions and billions and billions of things that are pointing to God. I was going to make a chart today talking about God versus man and what God has been able to do versus what man has been able to do. But I decided that it'd be much better to let a man named Job speak of this. And in the book of Job, God speaks to Job, and God answers these questions for Job about who are you compared to who I am. And in Job 38, the Lord answered Job from a whirlwind. Okay, let's just stop right there. God answered Job from a whirlwind. Job is sitting here, and all of a sudden, this cyclone comes. This huge force of nature that is capable of destroying towns and cities and villages. And God shows up in front of Job like this whirlwind. And then God speaks. He says, who is this that questions my wisdom with such ignorant words? Brace yourself like a man, because I have some questions for you, and you must answer them. Where were you when I laid the foundations of the earth? Tell me if you know so much. Who determined its dimensions and stretched out the surveying line? What supports its foundation? And who laid its cornerstone? As the morning stars sang together with all the angels shouted for joy. Who kept the sea inside its boundaries as it burst from the womb, as I clothed it with clouds and wrapped it in thick darkness? For I locked it behind barred gates, limiting its shores. I said, this far and no farther will you come. Here, your proud waves must stop. Have you ever commanded the morning to appear or caused the dawn to rise in the east? Have you made daylight spread to the ends of the earth to bring an end to the night's wickedness? As the light approaches, the earth takes shape like clay pressed beneath a seal. It is robed in brilliant colors. The light disturbs the wicked and stops the arm that is raised in violence. Have you ever explored the springs from which the seas come? Have you ever explored their depths? Do you know where the gates of death are located? Have you seen the gates of utter gloom? Do you realize the extent of the earth? Tell me about it if you know. Where does light come from? And where does darkness go? Can you take each to its home? Do you know how to get there? But of course you know all this, for you were born before it was created, and you were so very experienced. Have you visited the storehouses of snow or seen the storehouses of hail? I reserve them as weapons for the time of trouble, for the day of battle and war. Where is the path to the source of light? Where is the home to the east wind? Who created a channel for the torrents of rain? Who laid out a path for all the lightning? Who makes the rain fall on barren land in a desert where no one lives? Who sends rain to satisfy the parched ground and make the tender grass spring up? Does the rain have a father? Who gives birth to the dew? Who is the mother of the ice? Who gives birth to the frost from the heavens? For the water turns to ice as hard as rock, and the surface of the water freezes. Can you direct the movement of the stars, binding the clusters of Pleiades or loosening the cords of Orion? Can you direct the constellations through the seasons, or guide the bear and her cubs across the heavens? Do you know the laws of the universe? Can you use them to regulate the earth? Can you shout to the clouds and make it rain? Can you make lightning appear and cause it to strike as you direct? Who gives intuition to the heart and instinct to the mind? Who is wise enough to count all the clouds? Who can tilt the water jars of heaven when the parched ground is dry and the soil has hardened into clods? Can you stalk prey for a lioness and satisfy the young lion's appetites as they lie in their dens or crouch in the thicket? Who provides for the ravens when their young cry out to God and wander about in hunger? Can we do any of these things? Not a one. Only God can. Here's a beautiful thing about God, is He made us in His image. Every single person today, every single person past, and every single person that is yet to be born has been made in the image of God. Each one of us is unique and very special part of His creation. We should see God when we look at ourselves. Most people don't know it. Most people don't see God when we look at ourselves, when we look at other people. A lot of people aren't even living up to the potential that God created them for, because they're not acknowledging God and they're not following God. They're not living up to what He created them to be. But we can be. Some people have a really low self-esteem. They value themselves as almost nothing because they see no value, because they're not looking to God and seeing themselves through God's eyes, with God calling down, "I love you, my beloved child. I made you just the way you are because that's the way I want you, and you are perfect in my eyes." Because we're not following this, a lot of us are going in the wrong directions. A lot of us are lost and confused, and we're just wandering around. We're not living for the right reasons. We're living for ourselves. We're living for others. We're not living for our Creator. We were made for one purpose and one purpose only, and that's to glorify God, to point back to Him. He created us to share this news with everyone, to tell the world, I want to show you God. I want to show you the things that He's done. I want you to show the things He's done for me and the things He wants to do for you. This is our job, is to point people back to God. And He's commanded us to love each other in the process. That's the greatest form of love that we can show, is pointing somebody to God. We need to look inside ourselves. And when those fruits of the Spirit are blossoming and growing from us, we need to recognize that's not because of anything that we've done. That's what God is doing in us. And God wants to use us to glorify Him. So we need to be looking for God in our lives. And as you look at other people, look deep into their eyes and look for God. Because God created them too. God created them to reflect His glory. Even your enemies. Even the people that are hurting you. Even the people that are malicious. God still created them. And they still shine for Him. If we look, we will find God in creation. We will find God in each other. And that will allow us to come and worship Him. Because we are created for worship. Revelation 5:13 says, "Then I heard every creature in heaven and on earth and under the earth and in the sea, and they sang, blessing and honor and glory and power belong to the one sitting on the throne and to the Lamb forever and ever." This is what we were created to do. To reflect God and to worship Him and to sing out and cry out these praises every day. Let's pray. Lord, we thank You for loving us. We thank You for creating us. Lord, may we see ourselves the way that You see us. May we see what You want to do with our lives. If we are off course right now, Lord, nudge us back onto the right path. Continue to whisper to us. Continue to take us by the hand. Thank You for loving us through our turmoils. Thank You for loving us even through our sin. Thank You for sending Your Son to die and rescue us from the things that we have done. And that Your mercy and Your love is great enough to forgive us. So Lord, today we come before You. We say, God, I'm sorry. Take my life. Make me be what You created me to be. Help me to see You in me. Help me to see You in others. We pray this in Jesus' name. Amen. Some questions to think about this week. Use these in your quiet time, or if there's somebody that you can talk to, share these questions together. Begin with, what's the most amazing advancement that you've seen in your lifetime? What has been the biggest achievement that man has been able to accomplish? Then ask yourself, what's the most amazing thing that you've seen in nature? Not looking at what man made, but looking at what God made. What do you try to control in your life? Where are you trying to take the reins? Where are you trying to take the steering wheel? Where are you trying to be in control of something that you need to let go and let God take care of? When you look at yourself in the mirror, how do you see God? When you look at other people, how do you see God in other people? All of creation is constantly crying out and saying, look at God, look at God, look at God. You will see Him in everything.
I'm captivated, I'll say it, I'm on a whole new intrigue. My space invaded, upgraded, I hear you talking to me. It's in the boom of the thunder, it's in the cool of the rain. And I'll say, I don't ever wanna get away. Tonight is beautiful, it's got my mind on you. And and everywhere I turn is a reminder. I see you in everything, all day, and every beat of my heart keeps reminding me. I see you in every little thing, all day. No matter where I go, I know your love is finding me. I see you in everything. You're all up in everything. My soul's awakened, I'm taken by all the beauty you bring. You got it blaring, I'm staring, love watching you do your thing. There's no mistaking your style, no mistaking your touch. I see the grand, I see the subtle of your love. Lord, I see you in everything, all day, and every beat of my heart keeps reminding me. I see you in every little thing, all day. No matter where I go, I know your love is finding me. It's finding me in everything, all day, and every beat of my heart keeps reminding me. I see you in every little thing, all day. No matter where I go, I know your love is finding me. Tonight is beautiful, it's got my mind on you, and everywhere I turn is a reminder. From the sparkle in her eyes to the starlit open skies, you bring my heart to life, fill me with wonder. I see you in everything, all day, and every beat of my heart keeps reminding me. I see you in every little thing, all day. No matter where I go, I know your love is finding me. I see you in